Beep, 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 beep. Welcome to the court of the EDI Jester. I hope you're all well this fine morning. Ooh, we've got news, right? And it's big, huge news from the Jester channel. It's not from me. It's from the Times, right? And from Richie, right, who I'm proud to know, despite the fact that little bugger's been teasing me all week about what the news was, right? So, yes, Richie, they ain't gonna like it. That's a dead cert, right? So what have we got for you? Well, here we go. Now, Richie announced yesterday on Twitter, which some of you by now will have already seen, of course, this is Richie Herron, who transitioned and undertook gender reassignment surgery, and has since come to his senses and recognised himself as a gay man, an important voice in this terrible, terrible fight we find ourselves in against the sterilisation, medicalisation, and the lifelong medical complications that come with treating gay as if it's some sort of thing that needs to be converted, which is what this actually really is. It's about homophobia. So it's from the Times. Link is in the doobres, as they say, so it's the links downstairs. And I'll leave you to make it your own mind, but let's go through the article and see what's being said here. And then perhaps we'll talk a little bit about what might be the ramifications or other knock-on effects that will come from this important announcement. So buy me coffee, warrior t-shirt, blah, let's go. NHS trans surgery damaged my body forever. It's not safe. Meaning the surgery, obviously. An autistic patient who reversed his transition is suing over treatment given to young people with gender dysphoria. This is by Sian Griffiths, the education editor, on Sunday, June the 4th, on the Sunday Times. When Richie Herron woke after gender reassignment, he had a feeling he had made a terrible mistake. 5 years later, his scars still sometimes weep, and he cannot walk long distance or ride a bike. I've awakened from what was a mental health crisis to a body that will be forever changed and damaged. He said, he no longer identifies as transgender and living as a gay man as best I can, given what has happened. Now the Newcastle-based civil servant, 36, has launched legal action against NHS England alongside the heartbroken father of a 21-year-old who's been booked in for imminent genital removal surgery at an adult gender clinic. The two men are demanding a judicial review, which includes an independent inquiry into the safety of NHS treatments being offered to young people under the age of 25 who are experiencing gender dysphoria, as they call it. Steve Barclay, Secretary of State for Health, and Kenny Badnock, Minister for Equalities, as well as Dr. Hilary Cass, who carried out a recent review of the Tavistock Gender Identity Development Service, are also being served with legal papers. The father is hoping to stop the surgery from going ahead. Good for that man. Good for that man. In a crowdfunding appeal to raise funds for the legal case launched today, Herron and father, who wish to remain anonymous, say that the model of care for gender dysphoria in the NHS adult service is profoundly unsafe and routinely places young people on a pathway towards irreversible lifelong treatment. Now, what's interesting there is the use by the father of the words pathway, right? Cass has always said that social transitions are iatrogenic. You start them at 13, they could end up as a Richie. In the same situation as Richie found himself. So the whole thing has to go effectively. This is, I think, a major move forward in making sure that happens. Both Herron and the father's 21-year-old child have been diagnosed as autistic. According to lawyers representing the two men, the NHS may be discriminating against autistic people who are disproportionately more likely to be treated in the gender clinics, which is why Badnock, as Minister for Equalities, is included in the legal action, right? You get this? Okay? So what they're saying is that autism, which is a particular condition, is more likely to be something that occurs in patients who come up with a trans identity and think they're something they're not, in which case, if there's more of them, it's possible that the NHS has committed malpractice and done so more to autistic people than anybody else. You could say the same about gay or lesbian. This just happens to be the tack that they're taking. The case comes as a large number of 17-year-olds who've been on the 8,000-strong waiting list of the Tavistock Clinic in North London, England's only NHS gender identity clinic for children, are being referred to the adult service. So when they get to 17, they can actually get referred to the adult service. They shouldn't be referred to any service. Not with this stuff, no. At the 7 NHS adult gender clinics in England and Wales, surgery and cross-sex hormones are offered after the age of 18. Patients have at least 2 assessment appointments with a specialist medical practitioner before hormone treatment is recommended. And those who are considering surgical treatment have 2 further meetings with separate clinic professionals before they are referred. So that's 4 meetings. Dear God. Four. How long is each one of those? An hour? 4 hours to decide that. This is astounding. There's been a sharp rise in the past decade in young people wanting to change gender. From 2012 to 2021-22, the number of under 18s in England referred to Tavistock soared from 210 to 3,585. There's your social contagion. You know what the nutters say? Well, that's because people now feel that they can come out. You don't come out as trans. You don't come out as having a mental illness. You know, it's that simple. You do, okay? Heron was 25 when he decided he was a woman living in a man's body. He had been bullied at school and struggled to cope with his parents' divorce and was diagnosed in his early 20s with depression and obsessive compulsive disorder. He decided he was transgender, and all my struggles were due to gender dysphoria, an idea he says was encouraged by older activists in internet forums. They're always there in the background, the men see, in their dresses, and their handbags. He fixated on the idea that my body was being poisoned by testosterone. In 2013, he was referred by his GP to the NHS Adult Gender Clinic and says he was asked early on by an NH clinician if he had considered gender reassignment surgery. He attended a private clinic as there was a long NHS waiting list where he was diagnosed as transgender. When he was seen by the NHS clinic in 2014, they prescribed testosterone blocker and later estrogen. He also started therapy with an NHS psychosexual counsellor, which lasted for 100 sessions over 5 years. After which, he was told he would be discharged and that the only other treatment open to him was surgery. He had delayed and cancelled the irreversible operation, which involves removing the penis and testicles and modelling the area to resemble female genitalia, several times over the previous 2 years, fearing the consequences. In 2017, he was given another referral for surgery to be performed at a private hospital, but paid for by the NHS. Finally, in 2018, two years before my 31st birthday, I underwent a surgery that removed my genitals, inverting them in a procedure that has been marked as refined, but is no more civilized than an amputation. Today, despite multiple follow-up surgeries, my scar lines still weep, occasionally becoming inflamed and causing crippling pain. In the flesh cavity that was created to mimic a vagina, I feel mostly nothing, aside from the occasional stabs of pain. I can't use the toilet properly, and no matter how hard I push or strain, a dribble emerges, which may continue for hours after I've left the seat. The father, who with Heron is seeking a judicial review of the adult services, says he is terrified of the possible outcome for his child, who was born a boy and who is due to undergo genital surgery shortly. The young person is on the autistic spectrum, suffers from anxiety, and has very poor mental health. According to the father believes that, like Heron, they think becoming a woman will solve so many of their problems. I am one of the many parents who is heartbroken over the journey my son has taken, said the father, who is paying towards the legal fees for the case. I know he has been let down by the system and fear for the future. Age 13, the boy who had struggled at school out of the blue told an NHS child mental health advisor that he believed he was a girl. He was referred to the NHS clinic and was prescribed puberty-blocking drugs to halt his development as soon as he turned 16. I was shocked that such an experimental treatment would be given, despite my objections. His anxiety and his autism were not explored. Negligible. I decided to try to prevent him attending the NHS clinic, but was threatened with the possibility of him being taken into care if I stood in his way. As a parent, I am deeply concerned to protect my son. I'm shut out, he said. A system with such limited safeguards, providing a radical experimental treatment with lifelong consequences, is structurally unfair to people like my son, whose autism makes him more likely to seek the answer to his problems in this radical treatment. He needs more protection, not less. The men are being represented by the legal team that helped another detransitioner, Kira Bell, win a High Court case against GIDS to stop children with gender dysphoria being prescribed puberty-blocking drugs. Bell was given the drugs to stop her development at age 16 before later at an adult clinic being referred for a double mastectomy. The case was later overturned at the Court of Appeal, but led to a critical review of GIDS by Dr. Hilary Cass. GIDS has since been earmarked for closure, although this has been delayed until March 2024, about a year later than first planned. Heron was not diagnosed with autism until this year, but says he raised the condition with the NHS Gender Clinic. He adds that if he'd received a comprehensive psychological assessment and treatment for conditions such as autism and OCD at the outset, he would never have undergone genital surgery. And they want to stop this kind of talking therapy. They want to stop it. They want to make it conversion therapy for the therapist to talk to people about it. That's what they just want them on the slab, don't they? To keep their revolting belief system shored up. Just keep them on the slab. I can deal, says Richie, with my own regret and my own stupidity, but I can't deal with the fact that I'm not alone in this, that there are not just dozens or hundreds, but thousands of others like me and more to come. We deserve a safety net. We deserve to be challenged in our beliefs before we make irreversible decisions that have huge lifelong consequences. We deserve to be caught and cared for. We do not deserve to be punished for asking for help by being castrated and gaslighted into a way of thinking that isn't our own. It is a matter of urgency that the treatment offered by adult services is reviewed and that safeguards are put in place. A spokesman for NHS England said, NHS England has received a pre-action judicial review challenge letter, which will respond to accordingly. The NHS published service specifications for adult gender dysphoria services in 2019, following a 3-month public consultation. The final version of the specifications were informed by advice from various UK medical bodies, including the Royal Colleges of Medicine, health regulatory bodies, and NHS trusts, none of whom I would trust. None of whom I would trust. A spokesperson of the Government Equality Office declined to comment on the case. However, this year Bada has tweeted, "Let the tragic Tavistock scandal remind us we always stand up for the truth as we see it, no matter how inconvenient or impolite some may find the truth to be." Well, love and best wishes, Richie. You know, you're doing a great thing here, and so is the father, who we don't know about who he is. I wish you the best of luck in attempting to bring down this horrific medical scandal. And I think this will go some way to doing it. Not only that, it may have some knock-on effects, and it's worth just briefly considering those. If we can prove it, if we can say that that's what's happened, if a judicial review can say that that's what they've done, is they've treated autistic people the same way, then maybe we can get it done for gays and lesbians. But either way, win or lose, this is going to shed light on what may well be a number of cases coming up, particularly, for example, cases about discrimination due to this belief system being practiced. So, for example, by Manchester Pride, or the LGBT Foundation, or Stonewall, or any other organisations that purport to help gay people, but in fact cover for the far left nut jobs and TRAs and critical social justice lunatics. So I would say that even win or lose, this is shining light, and every little bit of light helps, because it does make the possibility of bringing cases against other organisations, such as those I've mentioned, more palpable. And then we'll be able to move forward under the Equalities Act for the things that they've done. So I'm going to cautiously welcome this. Just look after yourself, Richie, and the guy. And you're obviously going to speak to him, tell him, look after yourself and his son, because it's going to be important that you do. We're going to need your strength. I'm going to put the fundraiser into the Dubris so you can go and donate. Let's get this done. Thanks for listening.